You okay?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, all right. Well, first off, this is the first time I've ever been nervous for an interview. So,
Really?
yeah. So, from where I'm standing, you're quite high royalty. So,
Oh, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
no, I mean,
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
It's not deserved yet. You gotta don't get me too high up on a pedestal there. I still gotta get titled out.
Well, the first thing I wanted to say is thank you very much for, if you could thank everybody that has made this project possible. I think I speak for all of the Street Fighter community and the Capcom community. We were very excited when we heard about this project. It's almost like a dream come true for a lot of us. So thank you for working on this for us. I mean, we really do appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. The honor is all mine. My boss actually came up with the idea of it, and he graciously enough gave me the honor of doing it, of being the producer for it. So the honor is all mine to actually work on this. I'm very excited to be on this.
That was actually, that was the first question I've had can you tell me how this all began, without getting into too specifics, but how this all began?
Well, essentially, as most of your listeners know, I'm sure that they know that all of our development is done out of Japan, and, recently, outside from Studio 8 that used to be at Capcom USA, we started doing development a few years ago. We work with external developers because we no longer have an internal developer in the U.S. And basically what that led up to is, we have a limited capability of what we can do, and download titles recently became a priority for us. And we thought, what would be the coolest download title that we could do, given our resources. And, one of our great resources, we worked with them on several projects with Backbone Entertainment, who's very good at doing porting and emulation and 2D work. And then my boss basically, hey, let's do Super Turbo. Let's take Udon Comics, who we've been working with for years as well, pair them up with Backbone Entertainment and redraw it. And, basically it came from there. And that's essentially how the idea came up.
So when you guys came up with this idea, what the people that have to give the green light for this to actually exist, what do they think about, this basically is reviving a Street Fighter series after it's been dormant for a long while. How are they feeling about that?
I wasn't there, my boss usually was in those talks, so I'm not exactly sure what their reaction was. It took a little while in convincing to get off the ground, to be honest, or from what I hear. But in the U.S., we were really stoked about it. The VPs that we told about it, this is what we'd like to do. They all backed us up because, as you guys know, U.S. owns the IP, but we're still one company, so we had to get approvals from Japan, and they totally backed us up on this, and they really sold the product. And it took a little bit of convincing, but once we showed them the art test that Udon done, they were like all on board. So. We got a lot. Basically, they might have been a little skeptical at first, but once they saw what it could look like, they were like, yes, let's do it. So it turned out very well, and Capcom as a whole internally is very excited about the project. I'm getting art coming in, and I'm showing it off and saying, hey man, look how it's coming along. So everyone's like pretty stoked about it.
Actually, now that you brought it up, I have to ask this question because this question has been in my mind. When one of the things I opened that thread on Capcom's forum, and one of the
I've been reading it,
one of the things that I liked is that if there are any features added to the game besides just the original Super Turbo mode, that it should be something that all the players, not of just novice and experienced players alike, can appreciate. And I thought that one of the most wonderful ideas was creating alternate outfits for the characters, because after all, they were going to have to be done from scratch anyway. And if you were to mix that with a color edit, that would be a great way of customizing a character, and it would be a great way of selling the HD look, when it comes time for the game to be released. What do you think about that?
I've seen that, and I've actually, I have taken note that is a very popular request. We are looking into it. unfortunately, there are some technical issues involved with doing something like a color edit mode.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not exactly sure exactly what it is, but these next gen systems haven't really taken into account doing old school 2D games, and they don't have the same hardware that even the PS2 had to support these kinds of things. And it's not going to affect the performance, but there is a particular issue that won't allow you to really just change colors on the fly like you could do in Capcom versus SNK 2 in a color edit mode. And we're coming into technical issues that will affect the overall download size as far as color costumes go. So I really doubt we're going to be able to do a color edit mode, unfortunately. Now it may be possible in the future. The guys at Backman are coming up with new tech that might make it possible, but it may not make it into this one.
Yeah, that I was going to ask. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of ideas that you've seen that are pretty cool ideas, but you only got a set amount of time, a set amount of resources, and a set amount of budget. But if the game is hugely successful, do you think it's possible that it won't just stop there? That eventually other things that may not be able to make it to the final game will appear as add-ons down the road?
That's always definitely a possibility. I can't make you any promises, or if the architecture will allow adding on something to the existing program. It depends if that door is left open and what it is. It's always a possibility, but I can't really make any promises that it'll happen.
Right, and I understand that. And how can I ask this? One of the suggestions that I'm sure if you've heard is the network code.
Yes.
When it was online play. Can you tell me whether or not Capcom is really paying close attention as far as this particular part of the game is concerned?
Well, of course. This is one of the biggest features that we're selling on this title is the online play. So that's actually one of the most important features that we're doing. And Backbone is investing a lot of time into the network code. And we're basically it's going to be as good as we can make it. I can't really give you any other promises like that. I can't say, there's going to be zero lag. There's always going to be lag, even if the coding was perfect. Depending on people's connections, there's always going to be some kind of lag. But we're working on network code that'll try to minimize the. I know that there's a kind of a debate whether what's better. Slowing down the game to compensate, or what's the other option? Or input. Or having delay in input.
Yeah.
And I know most users are for the slowing down the game to compensate for that, and we'll just see how it works out when we get around to stress testing it and trying over different connections. But this is of most paramount important to us as far as the game goes, to get that network code as good as we can and better than our last outing on the 360.
Right. And you know what? That leads me to my very next question. As you can see, the Microsoft, they're beta testing Halo 3. Do you think this is a possibility as this game nears completion that they may beta test it to maybe like some of the more successful Street Fighter players who know the game inside and out, and be able to give you guys good feedback as to what works, what doesn't work, and what may need?
Street Fighter is a little different because like doing like an online beta test like a Halo, you want to stress test the servers with as many people as you can. Street Fighter is a little different, as in it's essentially a one-on-one, and all you really need is distance to really test that kind of thing, or different connections. So I don't know if we're going to do like a beta test like the other ones, like a lot of other titles do. Depending on time and schedule, we may do like Hyper Street Fighter and have a demo. And even on the demo, we did kind of use it as a beta test, taking feedback from that to try to improve code. But I don't know if we're going to do like a beta test, like where we're going to test it from beta and on. It might be a little later, but our schedule is really, really tight right now.
Right.
So we'll have to see. We're going to have to see how that's going to go. if we have time for that.
You know what? But demo will work fine because I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people that will give you some feedback after they play the demo. Shoot, the Capcom can sell the demo and make a fortune off of it. Because even if it's just one player on one stage, we'll all go out there and buy it because we're dying to play it.
Yeah, we're making initial plans for a demo if we can fit it all, but if it comes down to dedicating time to making a demo or dedicating time to polishing everything up, it's going to go towards polishing up. We'll see. It's just, to be very honest, we're on a very tight schedule, so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I always kept in mind is that you only got so much time, and a lot of people kind of forget that. They think you have all the time in the world to finish a game, and it's just not the case. One of the things that I thought was rather interesting I was wondering how hard it would be to do is how hard would it be to add an option for like custom soundtracks? I don't know if you ever seen people with Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but sometimes people they buy the game and then they will copy the game for their own private use and they will change the music out. Which I think is just a novel idea. I think all games should have it, personally speaking.
We're definitely looking into that. That was actually one of my personal requests for the title. And it's actually a requirement by Microsoft that games have a customizable soundtrack, at least to the point where you can play your own music. That's actually a requirement on the Microsoft side, and if we do it for one, we're going to do it for the other.
Right.
So we'll have that capability in there. Now, if it's going to be tied to game state, if it'll change track during game select screen, match over, that kind. Now that I'm not really sure.
Right, yeah. So, that would be nice. Don't get me wrong. It would be nice. I'm just saying that's not a requirement, but it would be nice if there's custom soundtracks for, each stage and bonus round and so forth.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. The more things we can do like that don't affect the scope of the project, being that we're using original Super Turbo code, in gameplay, but things like outside of that with music, which don't affect that. The more of those kinds of things we can do, the better. I've actually looked at your list on Capcom BBS, and I've looked around on other boards. I've put together my personal wish list, and we're working together with Backbone to see what we can implement in time. So we will see, but all the extra stuff is going to happen after the game is running up and netcode is going good. So depending on how much time we have after that, we'll see what we can get.
Right, and you know what? And now this is a question that I'm not sure if you can really answer, but it's one of those things where it's on everyone's mind. A lot of players, including myself, would love an updated arrange mode, so to balance out the game. The game is great, but there's improvements always can be made. How do you feel about something like that? Of course, this goes back to that question about time, but is that something that is possibly can get looked at?
We're definitely going to look at it. The original scope of the project is to keep it Super Turbo, and there are some things that we don't want to change because it will affect other things. But there are some minor things that David Serlin, he's on the team, and he's as much as a Street Fighter fan as I am. He knows a lot more about the game than I do, and there are a few things that we would like to change that will be not apparent to most gamers, but very apparent to you guys that we're looking into. But they will be pretty small, but it's not going to be enough to really constitute its own arranged mode. This will just be put into the game like that. There'll be pretty much things that are consensual that need to be changed, but it's not going to be very, very, very apparent to most players.
Okay. It's one of those things where one thing it was one of my questions I had is, what about a joystick for this game? Because there's no joystick for the Xbox 360, at least to my knowledge, except Dead or Alive 4. How do you feel about something like that? Is that something that could also be looked into, or is it?
Oh, I think that would be great. I'm pretty picky about the joysticks that I use when I use them. Actually, to be honest, we have a guy from the old coin-op days still at Capcom who when Hyper Street Fighter came out, he actually custom made an old joystick that was good, but then put Xbox components in it. And it works pretty well. Mm-hmm. But as far as Capcom itself doing one, we haven't put one. Like personally, we haven't put a joystick out in a while. I mean, last time we did, we just licensed it out to who was that company that did that a while ago? That did those collections of Street Fighter stuff.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Besides that, it's always an idea. Mm-hmm. That's something we're gonna put to licensing to see if they can find someone good to do it. I mean, as far as Capcom actually doing it, I don't think we've personally done one in a long time.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, even if it just means having a great top-notch company that produces quality joysticks, and you just have the Capcom logo along with the game on there. I mean, that's fine. It's just as long as it can work on the 360, or like
the PS3.
Yeah, or the PlayStation 3. I'm sorry, I don't mean to leave the PlayStation 3 on the cold, but. Then, like Tom Cannon was mentioning, at least a 6-button pad,
Yeah.
Because I admit the extended joystick for both the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 isn't exactly.
I would definitely love to see it, but that's that kind of stuff isn't up to me. It's up to licensing, and if we can, find someone that will. I hope they keep this in mind. That can produce a good stick for one, and two, that. You'll be able to do it on time. It all depends. We'll have to see. I mean, I'm definitely. I'm pretty. I talk to the licensing guy all the time, and he's very avid. He's a very big Capcom fan. He loves getting our name on a lot of things. So he's definitely into it as well. But we'll see how that turns out.
You know what? Can I offer my help? Since I have a good amount of a listener base, one of the things I can offer to do for you is all the people that have bought custom bought sticks, from suppliers. I can compile, basically do a poll of all the what stick would you suggest Capcom would use, if they were to have a licensing arrangement with it, because there's a lot of people, and you could probably see, I'm really pretty sure that you will be able to see which suppliers, get more votes than the other. How do you feel about that?
You can start a board on SOK or on Capcom. I read them.
Okay.
So,
okay.
And it doesn't need to be cut to me personally. I mean, you can really just start a thread, and I'm always on the lookout for these. I spend it's part of my routine every day to look up a few like 4 or 5 boards looking for chatter on Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. So start a poll. Yeah, I mean, you feel free.
Yeah, this is. If in one instance, we're really very fortunate because it's not every day that you can post ideas about a game and have people that actually have a say so over whether or not that gets into a game read what you write. That's something that very few, that's happened very rarely. So
well, that's something actually we've been pushing towards very lately. I mean, you're on the Capcom BBS, and there's a guy who posts his fan. He's on the board. He answers questions all the time. I mean, it's a company philosophy, and actually it's a personal philosophy of mine. I started out doing, being a Capcom fan before I worked at Capcom, and I worked in sales for a long time. I've always been a big fan of the community base, and now that we have people in the position to do something about it, we've really opened up our ears to the community. So, I mean, I know before in the past it was like, hey, what do you Capcom to do? And then the next post would be, oh, why they're not going to listen. If you put it in the right areas, specifically our website, there are people listening to that. So I can tell you that, specifically for Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix, I'm listening. And, I can't promise that everything's going to happen with it, but I am looking into it.
Nice. And oh man, I'm very, very. Well, first of all, we're very excited about it. Now, one of the things is, one of the things they have not announced yet is the release date for the game, which I really don't expect you to give us the release date, or else they would have announced it already. But can we expect it by the end of the year?
I'm definitely shooting for winter.
Definitely shooting for winter. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely shooting for winter, which is why I have a very tight schedule.
There you go. By the way, when say like you don't have to give us specifics, but when about do you think we can expect like to see actual screenshots of the characters and the stages?
Screenshots, like full working screenshots, it's going to be a while.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe another month or two. You know, we'll see. I mean, there's a bit more to do. I mean, we can. It's different than a 3D game where like there's all this cleanup. Like basically once they're in, they should be ready. But I want that looking as good as possible before we do it. But if you be on the lookout for the next couple of weeks, I start teasing you with in-game assets. It's not going to be shots of the game itself.
Right.
But I know there are people that are kind of fiending for more character designs and things like that. So I am working with our community manager, which you've been in contact with, to keep that up because, again, like I said, I'm really big on the community, and I want you guys to see what we got coming along. I mean, really.
How do you feel about how do you feel? You know what? I can ask this. What is like if you have a main goal with this project? What would it be?
My main personal goal, like you kind of mentioned earlier, is to revive the Street Fighter franchise.
Okay.
I've actually on past interviews I've done for other titles that we've had, that question comes up a lot. When we see another Street Fighter game? This was a while ago, and I said, we haven't announced anything yet, but Street Fighter is part of the heart and soul of Capcom, and you can be sure to see another title coming out again.
Mm-hmm.
So, now that we have it out, I'd truly like this title to really remind those that have forgotten about Street Fighter what it is and how great it is, and for those that love Street Fighter, just to really get them hyped up about it again.
You know what? I was just thinking, when you're talking about reviving the Street Fighter franchise, I think the part of the reason that, where Street Fighter kind of fell off is that the death of arcades, because that's where, the heart and soul of the Street Fighter was. It was in the arcades, not really at home. And to me, I feel that the online play is probably going to be the next best thing, in which you already said that you're very, 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 very aware of. And how would you feel about like online tournaments, online rankings, stuff like that? Something that keeps players coming in and coming back for more. And because eventually, if they get so engrossed in it, then eventually they will take it offline and go to one of the major events that feature Street Fighter titles, like Evolution, which has half of the titles are Capcom fighting titles. So,
I'm all for online tournaments and such like that. And Capcom is moving in a direction that we might even organize some of them.
Nice.
We're really would like to see the hardcore fans who do these tournaments really get back into it, and if we can organize more of something than just the Shoryuken tournaments, we'd definitely like to see it. And and we're all for fans themselves just kind of like putting up their own leagues together, even if just amongst their friends or their local group. We're really all for it. This type of game is really a multiplayer game, even though two people play at the same time. It's really made for people to get together and really duke it out. So it couldn't make me any more happy for this title if just the online tournament thing kind of exploded and then it boosted attendances for Evolution. It would be totally great for me.
Yeah, I was just hoping though, because I assume that this game will be one of the feature games of Evolution for 2008, and that makes me already looking forward to that. And I know that 2007 is not even over yet, but you know what? I was one of those things I always worried. I was always. How would you feel about Capcom taking more of a interest in Evolution per se, when this title becomes, I'm not saying if, I think it will be featured, and how would you feel about taking more of an active role as far as sponsoring it and stuff like that?
Well, it's not my say, it's not my area. There are complications to it that I may or may not be thinking of, but I would love to see it happen. If any indication goes to it, last year at Comic-Con, we had the guys that run Evolution come in to help us run the tournaments that we ran at Comic-Con. I know it was very small. It was kind of like a one-time thing, but that I would definitely say that that's an indication of future things to come as far as our role in the community, you know, and to the fans, not just making games and putting them out. It's actually, you know, going to be participating with you guys in the things that you do. So, you know, I can't say specifically what's going to happen, but I can definitely say that's an indication of the direction we're heading.
Right. You know what? I just thought about something on the game. You know, we know that you're remaking the graphics from scratch, but but what about the sounds and the music though? Is that just going to be a straight port from the old Super Turbo game, from the original arcade game, or?
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, it would be great to have a new music in it, but right now, it's just we don't have the time and we just don't have the time and the resources right now to do that. I mean, this is our first shot at it, and initially, you know, this is a big learning process for Backbone and myself as well. And right now, we are going with mostly the internal architecture of the game, and doing those kinds of things alongside with all the stuff we're doing right now. Not saying it can't be done, but it would be very hard to do in the time frame that we have. So we want to concentrate basically right now on the gameplay, you know, the look, and especially the netcode. You know what? It's one of those things where
I really do hope that I think the game is going to be stellar. I think it's going to outdo Hyper Fighting by a large margin. I think it's going to be very, very successful. And
that's a lot saying, because right now Hyper Fighting, I think, has sold the most on the Live 360. I believe so. I don't know if unit-wise, but I think revenue-wise. And so saying that Super Turbo is going to outsell that, that's a lot. That's a lot to say.
I know it is a lot to say, but I would say that people, I mean, to me, people are always attracted to what's new. This will be, it's something that people kind of forget. This will be the first time that we ever see a high definition 2D fighting game. And I mean, because as far as I know, I don't know of any others. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people who are a lot of people that haven't really played the Street Fighter series like us when we were growing up, that will probably give this game a try, and I think the game is going to be enormously successful, and I hope that when it is enormously successful, that, you know, such good ideas like the ones we just discussed maybe be implemented at a later time. I just hope that the project doesn't die as soon as the game is released. I hope it's sort of ongoing, you know, that's what I'm hoping for.
Oh yeah, I definitely hope so too, and I'm not going to give you any promises or anything, but the better that Super Turbo does, that opens the door more for Street Fighter in the future.
Right.
That's all I really say about that. But you know, this is the first sort of new Street Fighter in a long time. But the more the fans support it, I mean, you guys know how Capcom is. Something works really well, we kind of do it again.
You know what? One of the things that that caught me, someone asked a really cool question. Is like, you know, do you know whether or not, or even can you even say whether or not that Capcom is looking at other titles that might benefit from a similar revival, like some of the
like similar to what we're doing for Super Turbo?
Yeah, you know, like Vampire Savior, which has I mean, it's small by most standards, but there's a loyal following for Vampire Savior and rival schools that would probably benefit for a revival of his own.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of goes along with what I said last time. I mean, the better that Super Turbo does, the more likely that can happen.
Right.
I mean, it's really gonna see how this goes. I mean, I'm confident it's gonna do well. I mean, Capcom is confident that it's going to do well. I mean, it wouldn't improve the title unless we thought we were going to think it's going to do well. But, you know, how it does, we'll kind of go the future towards, we'll kind of point towards the future, if these other kinds of projects will happen again. I'm not going to say no, I'm not going to say yes, but we'll see.
How would you like to produce Street Fighter 4?
How would I?
Yeah.
I'm not sure of the question. Like, do I really want to do it? Or
yeah, I mean, how would you feel about, you know, if let's just say Super Turbo went awesome and now they decided to, you know, plow forward with the series and decided to actually start working on the Street Fighter 4 title, and you know, and they name you.
That is a whole other animal compared to what we're doing. Because I mean, essentially, we have a lot of the code already, and as you guys know, I mean, creating a balanced fighting game is very, very hard. I mean, part of the reason there are so many Street Fighter 2s is that when one was made, it's not they just made a little change and released another one. It's you have the first Street Fighter 2, and then from there it was almost like testing it and release a new version, release a new version because creating a battle fighter almost takes 5 or 6 games. It's not that simple. And actually, when we've discovered that, when we've been looking at the code, that you can actually see the layers of improvements as they were made throughout the code. Because Super Turbo, as you may or may not know, contains Hyper Street Fighter plus Super Street Fighter 2, and you can actually see the different architecture of the game in there, and you can see how they improved it on layer by layer. Now to actually go on to Street Fighter 4, that's a whole other animal. I can say I would love to do it, but man, I don't know. I might be biting off more than I can chew to do that, because I don't want to just put out I wouldn't want to do Street Fighter 4 just to do it. It would have to be like this. It would have to be a great game in itself, and it's a daunting task. I would love to do it, but I think we'll have to see how this goes, and how many white hairs this gives me before I can say I can do that. I mean, there are that's just a lot of work, man.
I can imagine, man. I was gonna say, I can only imagine how much work it is just to do this project of Street Fighter 4. Oh man, it gives me gray hairs just thinking about it. One of the things that a lot of people have been really, really antsy about is for the title, for when you do the game play, that it will be 100% arcade perfect. What do you have to say about that?
Well, what I'll say about that is, we have David Sillin on it, and he's basically my go-to guy to telling me as far as the game goes, is this right? We have him on the team because he is so knowledgeable about the game. When I produced Capcom Classics 2, he was the one I went to make sure that the port that we did on that version was arcade perfect, or like as near as we can get it. So, I mean, we're shooting for 100%, a perfect port, but personally, I couldn't tell you if it was a perfect port or not. I mean, it has to be pretty dramatic for me to notice it because, well, I'm a player. I'm not as good as most of you guys as far as frame counting and knowing how many buttons I've buffered through the charge motion, and I'm spitting off terms here I hardly know, but I have David Sillin to look at to make sure that this is a perfect port, or as perfect port as it can be.
That brought up a question, because CCC2 Super Turbo was really, really good. Really, really good. Although you could tell that they have so little time to actually do what all they want to. But let's say you release the game and there's like a couple of bugs. There's bugs are inevitable when you're doing software. It's like, is it within a possibility to assume that you guys might be able to put out patches now and then if there's something discovered that was like really affects the game? Is that like something that well, with the nature of download titles, that's always a possibility. If there's something that's glaringly wrong and it can be fixed, it's always possible that we can do it. And for Hyper Street Fighter, I know we released a patch for that mostly helped fix issues with lobbies and I think people that were quitting by unplugging. I kind of forget exactly what that patch contains. So I mean, the possibility is there, as in it depending on the issue can be done. So if Super Turbo releases and then there is an issue that looks like it really needs to be worked on, and if it can be fixed, I'll make every effort I can to make sure it gets done. But I mean, the nature of downloadable titles really opens that door. But it's kind of a slippery slope when you start doing that, because it'll become like a PC product where some products. That's not a bad idea, though. No, I'm just kidding.
But I mean, some products are released on PC, and and they're chock full of bugs, anticipating the patch to come out. Capcom being largely a console developer, again, you can never have a bug-free product, but we go through pretty good lengths to at least attempt to make sure our titles are as bug-free as they can before they're released. And we don't want to rely on the fact that we can use a patch to fix these kinds of things.
You know what? Now I have a question that has nothing to do with Street Fighter. Like, how did you? Now, most people will probably be dying to know, how did you get where you are?
I got into the industry as a tester. Well, at least back then, it was more of a who you knew kind of thing. I just happened to work with someone at a cell phone store who got a job at Namco. So, and he got me in there. I mean, nowadays it's a lot easier to become a tester because there's so many resources online to actually find these kinds of jobs. But I started at Namco, and then after Namco, I did a very short stint at 3DO, which was horrible.
I remember that system.
Yeah, I had one too. Huh? And after that, I went over to Capcom actually as a customer service rep, which I kind of briefly mentioned earlier. And from there, Capcom was very good about moving me up. I did a lot of extra work outside of customer service, and the higher ups noticed, and my boss moved me into his group. And from there, we moved on to product development.
Nice. Is this your dream job?
Definitely, yes. And it's definitely at my dream company. Out of all the companies out there, I mean, I have more love for Capcom than any other company I've ever worked at or could even imagine. I've always imagined, what would it be like to work at Rockstar? Great company. They make good games. One thing, I don't think I would have the same love for it as I do at Capcom, because I really do love Capcom's reputation in the industry, our connection with our fans, the games that we put out. I really enjoyed Capcom as a brand name. So right now I'm very happy in my job, and I'm happy where I'm working. I can honestly tell you I cannot think of another game company I'd rather be working for right now.
And I was just going to ask, can you tell us in vague terms, because I don't know, you shouldn't give us specifics, but can you tell us what is a day like in the life of a producer of a game?
Well, being a producer is actually pretty hectic. It's not all, it was a lot easier when I was a customer service representative, and I did a lot of answering the hotline, the game hint hotline. So then I could actually play games and things like that. As a producer now, a lot of it is communication. A lot of communication between, especially on this project, I have 3 parties, not including Capcom, that I have to keep all together on schedule. Hello?
Yeah, you're there. I'm sorry, that's my computer.
Oh yeah. So I mean, it's a lot of communication between several parties, identifying issues that come up and resolving them as quickly as we can, making sure we stick to the schedule, and guiding the ideas that come in through all the art guys and the development, and basically taking their ideas and guiding them to where I see the vision of the product going. And I mean, it's very fortunate for me that I have a great bunch of guys working on this project. The guys at Udon really have great ideas, and so do the guys at Backbone. So it makes my job that much more easier. And basically, they just have to say, hey, what do you think about this? And I say, hey, that's great, do it. But there are times when you have to make a decision, and you have to do it for the benefit of Capcom and the product. So it can be very hectic, and especially when you get down to crunch time later this year, it's going to be a lot of long nights and long weekends. So I'm really enjoying the fact that I could be home at 6 o'clock today.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, as you guys know, I'm sure you've heard, when crunch time comes down, that becomes very rare. So
right.
I'm enjoying it for now.
Long nights and long weekends, and lots of coffee. you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's actually good, very good that I live very close to Capcom. I could just go home for dinner if I need to.
Like you say, it's like you living. It's like is Capcom in what? San Francisco?
No, we've been in Sunnyvale for years, but last March we moved up to San Mateo, right at where 92 and 101 meet, or just right over there. And I'm pretty close to Capcom. I could ride a bike here.
San Mateo, where is that near? Like for people who aren't familiar with the geography of Capcom.
If you're not familiar with the geography, the San Francisco Peninsula is basically at the head of a peninsula. And in the Sunnyvale or San Jose, with the Silicon Valley, is about 45 minutes to an hour south. Mm-hmm. And we're just about smack dab in the middle between San Francisco and San Jose.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So we're actually in a really cool circle. There are a lot of cool developers out here. We're in striking distance of Sony, EA. Konami used to be around here, but I think they went to LA. Mm-hmm. And, there's a lot of guys out where we are.
You know, by the way, and one of the things I've been meaning to ask is, has Microsoft actually played any role as far as the game development process? You know, I never knew how involved they are when it comes to Xbox Live Arcade games.
At the moment, not right now, mm-hmm. but definitely later down the road when we start having playable builds. I mean, all the first-party guys are very proactive at this. You know, mm-hmm. They really take an interest on what developers are doing, and you know, you can either approach them and ask for evaluation and ask for help, or if we have technical issues, we can always look to any of the first-party guys and ask for help. If we're having an issue with this, they have their own dev support crews that can help us out, and also, I mean, they have just as much interest in we are as the title's, doing very well. So, when the title becomes playable, they definitely can come in and help us out. But right now, they haven't been really involved, but they can be. They can if they choose to, or if we ask for them. So it's definitely open up there. I mean, it's not for. It wouldn't be on every title where first party would get really involved into it, but mm-hmm. we can always look at them as a resource for help or for evaluation or for pretty much anything we need. The first party guys are great. I'm not kissing their asses or nothing, but they're really there to help us out as we are to help them out too.
Cool, and I would say that I envy you. I probably won't envy you later on this year, because I like to go home at 6 or 15 too, But I think that we all would love to have what you're doing, and and the fact that you being a Street Fighter fan yourself, and you got to where you are, that gives hope for us in the future that someday maybe we get a chance to do the same. It is nice. It is nice for once that we have a few people that literally work for Capcom that can actually pass on some of the ideas that we may have. I mean, that's something. That's really great too. I mean, I hate to sound like I'm spewing, company line here, but we really are moving towards a whole community thing. I mean, as you know, our community manager is one of the guys that help runs Evolution, right? And we hired him specifically because he knows how he has a foothold in the community. And again, it's not just me. It's not just him. The guys in the executive levels also have a big interest in this. They come from backgrounds where they deal with community in their own hobbies. Some of them are high-level, WoW players that help run their own communities within that. So I mean, they really understand the value in it, and it's not just let's do it because it's good for Capcom. Let's do it because that's just the kind of people they are. They know that fans make the game, and maybe even though some of them may not be like true hardcore Street Fighter fans, they know that it's a valuable thing, and they know that the fans appreciate it. So, I'm sorry, I kind of got off track. I lost what the question is, but yeah, it's very important to a lot of us there. I mean, I remember from the customer service days when I was just thinking, hey, I used to
take it upon myself to take any swag that I got from Capcom, and I used to send it out to people on the board. I would have these little contests on the Capcom BBS, really simple things. Like, hey man, I got some cool swag. If you win this contest, I'll send it out to you. That's what I used to do personally. No one told me to do it, and now that Capcom is moving in that same direction, I feel it. I think it's all really coming together.
Cool, and I'm happy that they're starting to focus more on the community, because with communities, build civilizations. People don't build civilizations, communities build civilizations. So I just think that's good that they are putting more of an ear to and listen to some of the suggestions that we may have. I mean, not everyone has, there's some people that have suggestions that are just too impractical, but at the same time, there's some people that have suggestions that are really pretty good, and I'm really enjoying the fact that we can have, sort of a forum where we can bounce ideas off of the project as the project is being developed, and I'm very, very happy. I cannot be any happier with the fact that you guys are doing this, and I'm hopefully, this won't be the last time I have a Capcom person on the show, because I think that I would love for the chance to interview you guys, periodically. I'm not talking about next week, but maybe in 3 months, you can come back and give us an update and see how things are going, and and then maybe by then time you may have an announcement to make, and hey, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm very happy with what you guys are doing.
Personally, I'm very open to that. I mean, it only takes, however long the interview takes, but I can do another interview later on down the road for an update. And I don't have a schedule now, but
right.
No, I'm definitely open to that procedure. Even before I was working on Street Fighter, for those of your listeners that are Capcom fans, I've actually done a lot of the media that we've done. I've done a lot of the interviews, and it's not just because I'm asked to do it. I want to do it. I want to be able to, say how I feel about a particular game. I mean, I loved God Hand, and I was doing everything I could for that game because personally, it was just so much fun for me. But I was doing as much media as I could for God Hand. So definitely later on down the road in a few months, if it looks like I have something new to say, I can definitely talk to Seth and we can set it up again.
Cool, because one of the things. By the way, I am very, very happy. And one of the things though is the drought, as I call it, of the Street Fighter series. I always say that that's also a silver lining, because at that point when Street Fighter was at its heyday, that was really the only successful franchise that I can really think of that Capcom had. But now, they have Resident Evil, and they have Lost Planet, which was really cool, and they have, of course, they still got the Street Fighter series, and they're doing other things with in all of these different franchises.
You can't forget about Mega Man.
Huh?
You have to. I can't leave Mega Man in that whole list.
You know what I want to see? I want to see a mature Mega Man game.
A mature Mega Man game?
I think Mega Man X, I think, was sort of a more grown-up version of Mega Man. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, despite the art style, the Zero series actually has a lot of mature tones to it.
Really?
I don't know if you played the Zero series.
I haven't.
I know a lot of people might kind of just throw it aside because it has a particular art style that's a little different. But personally, I think that's the most mature Mega Man series to date.
Really? In fact,
let me dark.
Are there any Mega Man games that have been announced? I haven't been kicking
new Mega Man titles?
Yeah.
I think the latest one we have announced is Mega Man Z Advent, which is the Zero series. It's for the DS.
For the DS. Which brings me to one question about Super Turbo that I think is already answered in most people's minds, because the Wii is doing well. In fact, I still having problems finding the Nintendo Wii. It's really it's really still that bad. PlayStation 3 is no problem. Wii problem. See,
it's not so hard for a guy like me that has connections in Nintendo, but I can see how it is.
Oh, yeah, to rub that in. That's fine. That's all good. That's all good. But one of the things, obviously, Nintendo Wii does not have an online playable mode. You know.
Yeah. Right now, I don't think there are any. And I think the only ones that are coming up are actually first party from Nintendo.
So let me ask you: is there a possibility that maybe this game will be released on CD for the Wii? You know, because I mean, it's one of those things where the Wii is doing a lot better than the PlayStation 3. You know, and that's saying that lightly, and they actually be killing it even further had they can actually keep up with demand. You know, but I would hate for this title to miss the Wii completely. You know, what would you say would be the likelihood of them actually taking another look at the Wii? Like, well, okay, we can't put an online mode on it, so maybe we just release it as a DVD or whatever.
I mean, right now it's only announced for the PS3 at 360. I mean,
right.
Really, that's only what we're announced for. But you just really never know in this industry, in this business, and with Capcom. Sometimes you really never know. So
right.
I mean,
cool. And I'm just trying to think of anything else that I forget to mention. I'm going to look down here. This is. Oh.
Yeah.
Do you guys plan on adding a training mode for this?
That is currently planned.
Okay. You know, because one of the things one of the ideas I also had was that, you know, I don't know if you ever played the Virtua Fighter series, but
I know what you're gonna ask. I saw those comments, and when the guy brought it up about how the EX series had a very good training, you know, it was a very fun system too. I really enjoyed the training system in the EX series, even though I didn't really play that too much. And yeah, so basically you're gonna ask, are we gonna have a training mode kind of like those, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know, it's one of those things where I think that with the training mode, it would help when for people who don't play Street Fighter to actually get into the game, and I also think about, what do you think about having a more sophisticated AI? You never can make an AI emulate a human, but I was thinking that maybe like on level 8, the computer would do things like do combos that pros do in real matches. What do you think about something? How viable is something like that?
I think that's a great idea, and you know, since it was a very popular request, I mean, it's something we can definitely look into. That kind of thing will take a lot of time and work. That,
right. I don't expect it to
may not
out.
have. We just may not have that kind of time to do it. But it's something that I'm very open to, that I agree with and I like. But it's something we can look at. But it's again, we'll just have to see if that kind of feature can make it into the title.
Can I? I don't mean to put you on the spot, and it's not even about Super Turbo, but do you know whether or not Street Fighter, not Street Fighter, do you know whether or not Capcom has the license to the DC comic characters?
To DC Comics?
Yeah.
No, I think someone else just picked that up.
Oh, really? Okay. You know, because
I'm not sure, but no, I can tell you that we don't have that license.
Okay, because you know, I'm sure that it has not escaped your notice that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is probably the most hyped Capcom game ever made. I mean, that's kind of interesting though, because I said hyped and not the most popular, because I'm not sure if it's the most popular game.
I mean, interestingly enough, I mean, it is actually due to several conditions, not just the title, but the best-selling Street Fighter game I think we have ever had was Street Fighter EX3.
Really?
But that was actually probably because it was a launch title with the PS2 and a couple other factors. But no, I definitely understand what you're saying about Marvel vs. Capcom 2. It's a very popular game. It's, to be honest, not one of my favorites. It's just too hectic for me. My personal favorite Marvel fighting game was the first one, Marvel Superheroes.
Right.
That it just got too complicated for me. But it is definitely a popular game. I mean, I see on eBay how much copies of that for the PS2 go.
You should show that to the execs on show them how much these games are actually running for. You'd be like, Gonk, this game only costs half as much at launch, you know.
I don't need to show them. They know.
Okay.
They know how much it is, but part of that is because it's just kind of rare now. But I mean, as you guys know, I mean, we don't have that license to do Marvel games anymore.
But it's one of those things. Everyone knows that that Capcom does not have the Marvel license anymore. But it's one of those things where do you? How can I say this? But does that mean that the Versus series is done forever? I mean, is there a possibility they may be able to do something on the theme of the Versus series, but not including obviously the comic heroes? Although a lot of people will call that sacrilege, I think that it's something that bears looking into.
Anything is really possible. I mean, basically you're asking, is there going to be another Versus game, right?
Yeah, I mean, even if there's just a possibility for one, or a distinct possibility for one, is what I'm asking, because I know that you guys don't have the Marvel license anymore, and that was all it was about. It was always with the Marvel license, but I think that it could work with other characters as well.
Well, I mean, definitely, but I mean, right now we haven't announced any other. We don't have another Versus game announced or any kind of Marvel deal or nothing like that. So, yeah, there's nothing really announced about that kind of stuff going on. So, not saying it can never happen.
Right. Right. You know what? One of the questions that has come up frequently is when dealing with Marvel vs. Capcom 2, is the online play. It is like, is that really possible to make because that's one of the only games, I can't think of any game that does not have online play. No, CVS2 does, Third Strike does, or Anniversary Edition does, but this one doesn't. Do you think that's a possibility in the future that might change?
You never know.
Okay.
I mean, you really never know. I mean, I'm not really sure if it will or will not happen. But I mean, as you guys know, we don't really have that product announced, at least even in its current state, as a download title. But you never know. You guys have to keep your eyes peeled for the announcements to see if anything like that comes up.
Cool. It's been an hour, and I don't want to really take up too much more of your time. I do, and this is a Friday night. I'm sure you're gonna go out there and do something tonight, But
actually, I got to spend some time getting ready for Beta Breakers.
For getting ready for what?
Oh yeah, you're not local. I'm sorry. It's this race in the city, in San Francisco. But some people run it. It's a genuine race. But 90% of the people are like me that just walk it and get drunk. So.
Wait a minute. Whether is it racing cars or is it racing?
No. It's like a foot race in the city. Like
a foot race.
Yeah, it's like a 7K race, but then it's a big tradition in the city that people just kind of join it, dressed in costumes or whatever, and towing kegs and getting drunk. This
is great.
Yeah, I just like to go out there and see what goes on there. But I'll definitely be attending that.
This is great. This might be the most memorable part of the interview right here.
I guess if you guys aren't from around here, you're not familiar with the Beta Breakers, because it goes from the bay to the breakers of the ocean, so that's why they call it that. But no, it's a very long tradition here, and it's just a lot of fun. So I got to spend some time getting ready for that before I do whatever I'm going to do tonight.
All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot, Mr. Jimenez, for coming on. Ray, I should be respectful, but... Yeah,
no, you just call me Ray, dude. I'm only 29, man. You don't need to call me Mr. Jimenez.
Okay, I won't. And so, Ray, thanks for coming on, and, hopefully maybe, a few months, we might want to come back on the show and tell us how it's going.
Yeah, and before that, I just want to encourage your listeners, too, don't be discouraged if you have an idea that you post on our board and it doesn't make it into a game. We are paying attention, but 99% of the ideas that I've ever had at Capcom never happened. But someone is listening, and you never know. Something might come in, and we are listening to that.
Well, you know what? I think they hear you loud and clear. You have fun. Be safe. Don't run into any cars.
That's the funny thing. My costume is a car.
Wow. Okay. Your costume is a car of what? Is it from the movie Cars or what?
No. I just got to paint it tonight. It's a old VW bus.
I see. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let you get to it, man. You have a great night and a great weekend. Again, a big thank you from me and the Street Fighter community, and the SRK community for coming on and doing this interview for us.
Hey, no problem, man.
All right. You have
Anytime.
a great one, man.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow. Okay. That was cool. All right. So the show isn't over, believe it or not. Now I'm opening up the phone lines. The phone line is free, 425-738-6216. Tell me what you thought about what he said. You know, I'm sure that there are questions I missed. You don't need to inform me that you forgot to ask this, you forgot to ask that. Some of that I purposely didn't ask because I thought it wasn't appropriate. But I try to touch on most of the major issues. So the phone line is open. Skype is open. People, if you have a headset, download Skype. It is free. I'm something I need to point out. It is free to call other Skype users. It only costs money if you want to call to a landline or a mobile. In other words, when you dial a number. It is free, totally free, no restriction, to call other Skype users. All right. So, again, I am very happy that he came on the show. I think he did a great job, and I think he pointed us in the right direction on a few things. Some things I was kind of bummered about, but hey, I'm still happy about the project. There was a few things that he said, probably not even 10 minutes ago, that was very interesting when I mentioned about Marvel being played online. What's up, Jaha?
What's up, man? Keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm just here to listen. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that I thought the most interesting thing is when I questioned him about making Marvel making it online as a download title from Microsoft. He didn't say no. He actually says you just have to stay tuned. To me, I think that's a sign that maybe we probably would see it, But so that will be a great day, I'm sure, for everybody. And people, buy this game. Buy this game. I don't care if you don't even like Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Buy it. We need to send a message. Encourage your mom to buy it. Encourage your dad, brother. Hey, I you know what? I'm going to visit Ray Charles' cemetery, and I'm going to convince him to buy it. All right. So, I mean, we really do need to do our part on this. They're listening to us. They're trying to do everything they can. Of course, like with anything, they only got limited money, limited resources, and limited time. But I think they're going to try their best. They're not going to try to just push something out that's half-assed. I think they're going to try to do their best to make it the best it could possibly be. And again, he did not deny the possibility that if the game is very successful, that there may be add-ons later on that couldn't have gotten into the game because of time constraints or resource constraints. So again, I do implore everybody to buy the game when it comes out. Also, I do implore people to. He said it himself. If you got ideas, post them. Post them on Capcom's forum. They do read it. I told you guys, they do read it. They read the thread, and he just confirmed it. They read the thread. And especially if it's an idea that's that's really practical, So if you got ideas of what you would like to see in the game that will make the game more appealing, not just to you, but make appealing to other people who don't play Street Fighter. That's the whole thing I'm trying to get across to people. Is when you introduce ideas, try to think about it from a larger perspective, because after all, this is still a business. They're in the business to make money. That's not bad. That's just how any business is. They have to make money, or else it's over. So try to think of it as being a benefit for both new and old players alike, not just something that we as experienced Street Fighter fanatics would only enjoy. So that's really all I can say about it. I think the interview went very, very well. Again, I didn't take any phone calls because I did not really want to be interrupted, and plus I did not want to take a chance of someone asking or saying something that's inappropriate. Yeah, And I told him this is a very serious type of interview and everything. It got serious at least into the last 5 minutes when he told us what he was going to go to. I thought that was just hilarious. The Bay and what he said,
the Breakers or whatever.
Bay and Breakers or whatever. And he's dressing up as a car. So hey.
That's all good.
It's all good.
So for me and for everybody else that might have just tuned in, want to maybe give a brief rundown of the, as far as the interview, maybe, points that we might have missed. Want to give a quick rundown of any, as far as headlines, as far as information that you got out of them.
Okay, headlines. I'm looking back at the questions I've asked. And one of the things that I was hoping to make in the game, but there are technological barriers to doing it, is creating a color edit mode. I think that probably will not be possible. However, he did like the idea of alternate outfits for the characters. So I think that's something to be of note. He really stressed. Huh?
Did he bring up anything about what they're trying to do to resolve maybe lag or anything like that?
That was my next point. He talked about.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And he talked about it. This is their main. This is one of their main goals, is for the network code to be the best it can possibly be. He's telling me it's going to be better than what it was in Hyper Fighting. And so it's safe to say that they're not going to reuse whatever engine they were using for Hyper Fighting. All right. Custom soundtracks for the game. He would like that, although he doesn't know if that will be able to be included. But he says that, assuming there's enough resources and time, that's something he won't mind. He will not mind seeing. He did say that the original music from the arcade, as well as the voices, will make it over. Again, this was a resource and a time constraint issue. So don't expect any, at least not off the bat, don't expect any arranged music or anything like that. Now, as the arrange mode to balance out the game, he kind of said he doesn't know if it will be a whole different mode. But I still think that this is a definite possibility, because there's no way to do an arrange mode on the arcade mode, else it would not be Super Turbo anymore. I mean, it would be Super Turbo something else. It would not be Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. So.
Well, let's suppose you work with Ray or something like that, Bunk. I'll let you go ahead and represent Capcom on this. And I'm somebody that just goes on Xbox Live. I'm not a Street Fighter head, but I got Hyper Fighting. I spent some Xbox Live points on that. Now there's Super Turbo